Welcome back to Czech Stig TV. This is 2022 now, so we'll call it Season 2, Episode 1. Today I have the pleasure of visiting with Paul Dierschow, the owner of Sports Car Craftsmen. We're going to have a tour of the facility, and I can't emphasize enough the word craftsman, and you'll see in today's video that really illustrated that everything from start to finish can be achieved at this facility as national and perhaps international customers. I'm lucky enough to have met Paul way back in 1981 with my first MG, and Paul has always come up with the right parts for Bella Rouge to be on the track when I need her to. And I'm truly grateful for Paul, for Sports Car Craftsmen, and for this opportunity today. So let's go inside.
So Frank called me needing a clutch release fork for his MGB. His discovery was that somebody had used the incorrect fork, which came from a 3-synchro car, but he has a 4th synchro gearbox, and the two forks are different. I've got one of each here in my hands, and you can see that they look very, very similar, but in fact, you can see that one is slightly taller than the other. If the wrong one was used, it may be functional, but it would not position the release bearing properly relative to the clutch itself. And Frank discovered that the hard way.
Yeah.
So what we have is, from our vast stock of used stuff, a used one that is correct and should solve his problem. Send him on his way.
Thank you so much, Paul.
You're welcome. Tell you.
How long have you been doing this for?
I started doing it when I was a college student at CU Boulder in engineering, and started doing it in 1973. So we're coming up now on 49 years that I've been doing this to one extent or another.
Right.
At first, of course, it was a very crude operation, but it took off, and by the time I graduated 2 years later, I decided I'd give this a try for a little while as opposed to engineering, because it was going really well, and well, here we are, simply doing.
Fabulous. Thank you, Paul. Paul, would you like to tell us about any of the cars in here? Let's have a quick...
We keep a few cars in here for demonstration purposes. These are all cars owned by myself, and cars that are very useful for a variety of reasons. This MGB in front of you was one of the first ones that I built in a project to show customers what a bumper conversion for a rubber bumper MGB, how we do the job and what the results are. And it proved to be very successful to helping people understand what they get if they have us do that job. And then as time went along, we started to do more and more modifications, again with the purpose of demonstrating what a customer could do with their car. And some things that you can see is it has a supercharger kit that came from Moss Motors. This was the first car in the world that was that to have one of these kits. It was a rubber bumper car. We installed it, gave feedback to Moss and told them what we encountered. And then after we did that, then they offered them to set for sale to the public. It also has a Nissan 5-speed conversion that we sell a tremendous number of, more than anybody in the country. As with the superchargers, we sell more than anybody in the country, and it largely is because of the fact that they're so much more productive at this elevation than they are at lower elevations. The reason for that is due to our lowered compression due to the thinner air. We're starting off at a lower threshold than you would at sea level. So adding a supercharger counteracts that low threshold and then adds on top of it. So it makes a much larger impact percentage-wise than it does at sea level. So when I can take a customer out and demonstrate that, it's impressive to the customer, and it sells product, quite honestly.
I bet.
A variety of other things on this car that we've done. We have lowered it to chrome bumper ride height. Makes it visually more attractive. We use these alloy wheels on quite a number of cars, and again, when people can see what the result is, it's very, very useful. We have sold so many parts just from giving this car a demonstration. On the other hand, behind you, you have another MGB that's the other end of the spectrum. This is a very early MGB, a 63 car, that we are very fortunate to have obtained many years ago. This car has only 15,000 original miles from new. All the interior pieces that you can see are original. Original seats, carpets, panels, you name it. Even has the original soft top and all the pieces that go along with it. It's just an incredible example of an originality that is one that is extremely hard to come by. An early car with this low mileage may not exist in this country. And it's a good example of originality. We also have back behind there, we have a bug eye that has a reputation and a personality all of its own. Again, just as the MGB, it's got a supercharger, it has a Nissan 5-speed, it has been lowered, it has disc brakes, it has so many things that you would do to make it an extremely competent car. It's I'm fond of thinking of it as a street legal go-kart, and it is just absolutely a delight to drive. Sitting next to it is an MGA twin cam, again not modified from original very much at all. Last driven 1976, and it is operational, but it's not driven very often.
Let's take a break and let you deal with the while Paul's visiting with customers. I'll just take a quick panorama of the main area here. You've got a kit car on the wall right there. This is quite the facility and what they can offer us here at Sports Car Craftsmen in Old Town Arvada, Colorado.
Racers, pre-war Gloria, so on and so forth. Natalia, very significant cars. So it will be back next month in its usual place, holding the floor down.
Mm-hmm. Bella Rouge got to be part of the MG exhibit there a couple of years back. Yeah. Cool. Show us around, Paul.
Yeah, the shop, we can show you a little bit around here. This part of the shop is where we do the mechanical work and the bigger project cars. We do every kind of service that a customer wants. We don't just do a few easy jobs, we do everything. It's our objective to be partners in the ownership of a sports car with our customers, to make them love their cars and accommodate whatever interest they have and whatever need they have. So we do top to bottom, front to back, you name it, we do it. As I mentioned earlier, we do massive body reconstructions, some of which are very significant. This is a Healy 3000 that we did much major body work on. A fascinating car bought right here in Lakewood, brand new, by a friend of mine that has since passed away. Bought it in 1966, parked it in 1973 after he hit a deer with it, and never finished completing the job. After he passed away, I sold it for his widow to another existing customer that we had done another car for, another exact same car within 2,000 numbers of this one. And so now he's going to have a pair here. It's nearing completion. Much mechanical work is finished. It's just down to trim now, and we'll be hopefully on the road this summer.
Yay, beautiful.
We also have other major projects of that nature underway. We have a MGA 1600 for a customer in Houston that we did a huge renovation on. This had to have been the worst body that we ever started with for something to work with, but have done the complete renovation, and it is now ready for him to pick up.
Yay.
So that's another example. Over here we have a Triumph TR3 that belongs to a wonderful customer in Glenwood Springs that, again, we did a major body renovation. The car had been in his family's possession since nearly new, as I understand it, and we've rented the body. Now needs to be completed. Chassis is already done. Drivetrain is already done. It's run. Just needs cosmetics. Behind you, we have an original MG billboard from 1974. This is
wow,
one that I purchased many years ago and mounted as a display in the back of the shop here, as you can see.
Yeah.
I have another one, a TR6 one that I have not mounted yet that I intended to do someday and probably will not get around to it for a while. This is, as I said, the mechanical side of the shop.
Okay.
We'll walk through the door to the body side of the shop, and presently there's a big hole where a body would usually sit, and only because just yesterday we moved it from the body work side to the paint booth, and it is now in the paint booth.
All right.
And we'll be getting its final primer very shortly.
Various fenders up there.
Yes,
And the
those
shelves
are parts for MGAs that we rebuilt quite a bit. People send us MGA bodies from all over the country to reconstruct. It's because we have equipment that nobody else has in the country to allow us to build an MGA body properly. This is not a good day to show you how it works, but
that's okay.
the essence of it is that this contraption here is a slave frame that replicates all the mounting points for the body. And what we can do is build a body on this and know that it will be right. There are many pieces of the equipment that attach to this that will allow us to locate every single piece in the right location. And so we can repair any part of the car and know that the pieces will be located correctly.
So the multi-million-dollar question, of course, is could you fabricate aluminum E-type Jaguar parts?
Sure, Frank.
When I win the lottery.
Yeah, and me too, to allow us to buy the equipment.
Yeah.
The technology that we use is not complicated at all. It's amazingly simple, old school way to do it. All of these goofy wood pieces that you see on the wall are actually hammer forms for forming small repair pieces, such as dog legs for an MGB or for TR6, you name it. All of the rust repair panels that we use to rebuild a car, we make on site. We have found that the ones that we have been able to purchase from the big catalog companies are unsatisfactory, and we're spending so much time fixing the parts that it made no sense, so we just made special tooling to allow us to repair.
Well, we just went through that with brake calipers on my MG.
Yes, sadly,
and that's okay.
It's a perfect illustration how useful old used original parts are. And in your case, we found out the hard way that a cheap reproduction part
just doesn't cut it.
It doesn't cut it. It's not worth it, and it's unfixable. We would rather take an original part and fix it than to buy a new part. And they're usually superior. Almost always.
And I'm really glad that you rebuilt my calipers. They're painted red. We tried the part because we were trying to make a race that didn't happen anyway. But hey, we were in the game to be there, but ended up with the right solution in the end. So that was great.
Well, when we are fixing the cars every day, you learn very quickly how unsatisfactory many of the parts are. And that's where so many of them we would rather repair or replace with ones we make ourselves. The patch panels are a perfect example. An MGB dog leg, which every car needs, can be bought very inexpensively out of the catalog. They will not be satisfactory if you are working to a high standard. They'll be okay if you don't care, but
you just want to get by.
If you do work to the standard that we do, there's no point in even using them. So we make our own from scratch front fender, rear fender patch panels on MGAs, MGBs, TR6s, all the common stuff that we work on day in and day out. So that explains a lot of the odd equipment in here that we use for making pieces. Some pieces are very much more complicated than just a patch panel. We do make bigger pieces. An MGA trunk floor, for example, is a tremendously complicated part. It takes a full day to make one. But when it is installed, you will not know that the car has been repaired. It's indetectable in the most minute detail. Whereas the part that is sold to do that job in a catalog is so poor that it is unacceptable. Even if you lowered your standards, I don't know how you would use it. It's unacceptable. Other things that we do is we repair the frame extensions for MGAs. This is a part that every car has, and every car it's probably damaged, almost certainly. This square contraption here again replicates all the factory mounting points to ensure that when it fits this fixture, that it fits a car the way it's supposed to. The extension. So we'll continue our walk around and we'll go through our parts department. This area is small parts, the kind of things that we need to service cars every day. For example, hydraulic rebuild kits, hydraulic cylinders, brake hoses. Here we have lamps, lenses, polyurethane suspension bushings, brake parts. Every brake part you would need, from cylinders to brake shoes, you name it. Electrical, cooling systems, so water pumps, hoses, heater valves, water outlets, thermostats, on and on and on. radiator caps, electrical, everything you'd need for ignition related stuff, other switch gear, so on and so forth, oil seals, again, everything that you would need, exhaust parts, suspension parts, you know, ball joints, bushings,
And that
you name it.
shift fork that I need is probably somewhere in here.
Yes, it's back there. We'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
Wiper blades, mirrors, small cosmetic things, you name it. This is the heart of what keeps it going, but this is just the small parts. Bigger parts are up in the loft up above. We have every radiator an MG would need, or gas tanks. We keep every one they make in stock because we replace them constantly. Walking through the back here, this is our paint shop, and we have several cars in process.
Oh look, you're building me an XK coupe. Lovely.
XK150 for a good customer in Kansas City.
Wow, I moved to Kansas City.
An extensive rebuild. The car was severely rusted and damaged. This metalwork on this car was about 500 hours just in the metalwork. Now it's ready to move on to the next phase, which is the body work, and then the last, which is the paint. So now we can come on back into the mechanical shop where we do our routine repairs, and I'll introduce you to my colleague Ian Smoke, who has been with us. Yeah, Frank here is
for Czech Stig TV.
All right.
Yay.
making us a promotional video here.
Why not?
Why not? So yes, Ian is working today on a TR6 on the left here that needs a full suspension rebuild and is well underway, and so on and so forth. You name it. As I mentioned earlier, we help with whatever a customer needs, not just the easy stuff.
Yes. And Ian's the man that will be taking over in 9 months.
He hopefully will be taking my place to answer the phone.
That's about all I'm good at.
I'm sure that's not true, Ian.
Back here on this side is where we do our bench work rebuilding, and we always at any one time have 6 to 8 engines in construction. We have here an MGB engine that is finished and will immediately be going on to the test stand that we just showed you with the Healy engine. So that one is done and awaiting its testing, breaking in. We also have a 104 Healy engine that is next up for the construction, that has everything here ready to be assembled. Here we have a Healy 3000 gearbox and overdrive that we have built that is now ready to be joined and then installed into the car. Finish that job. So we have whatever a customer needs in the way of any mechanical or electrical part to be rebuilt. Engine, transmission, overdrive, differential, kingpins, you name it, we do it. We have, as I said, this side, the routine kind of work that can be anything from a tune-up and a brake job to a body off the frame restoration. This rotates through pretty quickly the day-to-day work, and as I said, this is sort of the quiet time of the year, so it's when we're hoping to make progress and do infrastructural work. It's the only time of the year that we can actually have time to do that.
Except for when people like the Czech Stig are interrupting you and taking your time, and I'm really grateful for the tour today and for the viewers to get to see what the inside of a true craftsman's place really looks like.
Well, before you got here today, my job was to deal with inventory, which is, believe me, I appreciate the distraction.
Excellent,
So
excellent.
thank you very much for
Should we have a
your
quick?
visit.
My pleasure. Should we have a quick look outside and just?
Sure,
Just
we can
have
go
a-
outside,
so-
although being snowed in, it doesn't
Yeah,
it doesn't look like much today.
We'll,
but
we'll
we
have a
can-
quick look and
Okay, good.
yeah. Oh, we just missed the train. Here we are.
Well, if he's heading that way, there should be one coming the other way in 3 minutes.
Ah, so here's the front of the facility, and keeping the sun behind us, and back there. See,
Yeah, all kinds of work that's in various stages here. In the summer months, this would be full from fence to fence. We've been getting a lot of cars completed and out of here, and so now there is actually a little bit of parking space in the front that we normally don't have.
yeah,
But it's always got work waiting to some extent.
yeah.
In
And
the
even back here where,
Yeah, the
I know.
back here on the other side of the fence, this is where we have the boneyard full of organ donors,
yeah,
and also the containers that I talked about.
yeah,
These containers each can have 8 cars in them. They're stacked 2 high and 4 deep on a
Yeah.
racking system that I built inside of each one. They are not the ordinary shipping containers that go overseas. They are what is called a domestic high cube, which is actually a foot taller and 6 inches wider than your typical overseas shipping container. They're also quite long, 53 feet on the left side ones here, which allows us to get 4 cars in a row, because they usually average about 13 feet long and then 2 high. So this side on the left is completely full of cars. On the right, that is those are full of parts, and again, each one has been racked up, and each individual one is denoted for a special particular content. One is just Jaguar parts, one is Healy parts, one is older MG, that's MGA and MGT series parts, one is rotating electrics, hard tops. So they're very well organized for parts in storage. The yard itself right now is in a total state of disarray. We had a couple of weeks ago a horrendous windstorm blow through, and it brought down a couple of big trees in the background there.
I
That
see
crashed
that, yeah.
into the yard and smashed into the cars and the fence and the pallet rack, and so we had to clear out a road to get all the way to the back corner there so we could clean up the mess, and then as soon as we got that job finished, then the snow came, and it'll be reorganized here when the weather clears and
Sure,
put everything
yeah.
back where it should be. But we have stuff out here pretty well organized. All of these totes here are wheels for various applications that have been sorted out. In the back of the big truck, we've got rear axle assemblies, again all sorted out by application. You name it, in the distance there you can see pallet rack full of body parts. However, for the parts, this is a small portion of what we actually have. The majority of the outdoor parts of this nature, I have another property in Denver that is full to the gills with parts.
Oh wow.
I have far more parts down there than I have here. They tend to be the things that we have in excess, that are excess inventory, that we don't need here, although I do end up going down there once or twice a week.
Just
for a
out
load of parts.
of curiosity, Paul, would you consider it perhaps the largest in the United States of parts of British sports cars in the 50s and 60s.
Yes, yeah.
And
I've been all around the country,
Tree.
and I have a really good feel for who's who and what's what. We have very much of a community of fellow shop owners such as myself, and we all know each other, and we get together once a year for our conference at the British Motor Trade Association conference, and I've been to visit just about all of the people in that organization, and there's stuff everywhere, but nowhere near the volume of what I've got here.
So I'm guessing a conservative estimate of a few $1 million worth of actual inventory.
Who knows? Yeah, how do you? And it doesn't matter.
Right. The point is, it's here for when guys like you and I need to do repairs and things like that.
And we supply a lot of the parts that you may not be aware of to some of the bigger players in the world. Moss Motors is one of our best customers. There are many parts that when Moss wants to make a part that's not available, that they will call me and get an original sample, and I will send them quite a number of samples, usually making them aware that there's far more differences than they had realized in terms of variations and so on and so forth. So every time they call, I am usually able to give them an education about a particular part that they were not aware of. And a lot of the parts that they make have originated from me over the years. They also buy a lot of cores from me, and we are just now putting together a package that will be going to the UK, to Moss UK, not in the US, but we will be filling a container of a lot of core units that they're purchasing. We're going to be sending over all of our TR6 differentials, all of our TR6 transmissions. We have already sold them all of our rib case midget gearboxes, and they're a very good customer for those kind of things. They've also recently lengthened the list to include a whole variety of flywheels and other mechanical parts. In addition, I have sitting nearby a TR6 chassis and body shell that the Moss UK, Moss Europe CEO is buying from me for his personal restoration that he's doing to his car. And
nice.
That container is going to be full of a lot of goodies. But we sell stuff. Oh, and that Moss will also be buying almost all of my core lever arm shocks, which will mount to into the thousands. So this is going to be a full and heavy container.
Fabulous. Well, Paul, thank you so much for the tour and the insights today, and for taking the time to visit with me and with some of my viewers on what it really takes to keep our cars alive and on the road and on the track. And really, from the bottom of my heart, Paul, thank you for all the stuff that you've done for me personally and for what you do for our community. It's been a great pleasure visiting with you today. Thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome, and I thank you for the opportunity to get together. I would insist that you come back for a revisit once we've got the place tidied up after we deal with present disaster. It'll look a lot better next time. So.
You know I will, Paul. You know I will. Thank you.
You're welcome.